Welcome back, everyone. This is Austin Revel here at 2FBC Tactical, giving you another news update before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to you and your family. I'm not going to say that this is my last video anymore because who knows? The federal government is moving kind of rapidly before Christmas. It's kind of impressive and maybe even concerning that they are doing things as quickly as they are. But regardless, this particular video is a good one. So we will dive right into it. But first off, thank you for commenting, and subscribing. Please do that. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps keep the show going. I know our sound systems and everything, we've been slowly working and upgrading. We hope to get some new cameras here pretty soon. So, again, subscribing is how we keep all that going. We do have a Patreon account if you would like to, chip in. That we greatly appreciate. But certainly we plan on keeping all this free. So let's continue that moving forward. We're doing the drive for 25,000 followers before SHOT Show, which is June 20th. I'll be flying out on the 18th, going to range day on the 19th, and we'll be there throughout SHOT Show. So we'll do some videos and get that up for you. It'll probably be, quick snippets, and then we'll do a kind of a full-length video on my thoughts afterwards. And also go check out our news section, the Patriots Almanac. We have lots of things coming out, whether stuff going on in the store or as well as updates such as this one today, if you don't have time to watch the videos. And again, thank you for all of you out there who continue to make this fun, and this is why we do it. With that being said, I do want to say when we bring you news, we're going to bring it through the eyes of the Second Amendment, and that's it. We are, I guess, opinion writers. It would be a good way to say it. And our opinion is our constitutional rights reign supreme and are given to us by God, not by government. Therefore, they cannot be infringed upon or restricted by government or man. It can only be removed by God. So if you want to know our bias, that is our bias. And it is the bias in the way it was written. But with that being said, that's how we're going to bring in the news. So Pam Bondi came out today and sued Washington, D.C. over their assault weapons ban. And they do have one. They're one of 9 other states that have assault weapons, or 8 states plus them, I guess, because they're a District of Columbia, that ban, dangerous and unusual. That's the words they use, not mine. Firearms from the general public. You hear them as military-style weapons. A whole slew of terms for these guns. These guns are just center-fire, semi-automatic guns. They take detachable magazines and have quote-unquote scary features, In terms of functionality, they're semi-automatic, just like this Luger that's almost 100 years old, right? There's no difference in function. When you hear things about, calibers and stuff, again, most of the calibers we're talking about are very common. They are not uber scary. They have specific designs, of course, but they are useful in all different types of tools and sports and other things. So that's all it is. It's about arbitrarily defining certain categories of weapons to remove them from society and gain control for the government. That's all it is. That's the game plan. And if you can do that for some categories, you can make that category ever expanding. We're seeing that out in Australia, or what they're attempting to do over there. We've seen it in Canada, right? This continuing, ever evolving. If we just get one more ban, then everyone will be safe, because that's how this works. That unfortunately is not how this works. The criminal cares not for laws nor what's written on paper, only for the threat of violence and enforcement of whatever it is that we as society have deemed acceptable. When I say that very specifically, because that's what it is. Ultimately, when you write a law, you have to assume that the worst outcome of that law is the loss of life. And so you need to make sure that that law is worth it. But also, there are the federal rights that are given to us by God that laws of man cannot usurp, because you cannot assert what you yourself did not give. And so that's how our system is set up. And that is always the part that people are trying to chip away at. So in this case, the Department of Justice is doing something radical and kind of earth-shattering. It's the first time the federal government has actually initiated a lawsuit on our behalf when it comes to gun rights. I can't think of a time that's ever happened. Now they, sue all the time to take away our rights. That happens all the time, whether it be bump stock bans, whether it be whether it be pistol braces, and I shouldn't say sue. They just write laws and demand enforcement and compliance with those laws. And those laws are really just opinions, but that's going down a whole rabbit hole. That's normally how this goes. We don't really see the Civil Rights Division actually working on restoring our civil rights, typically speaking, because government sucks, right? We can all agree with that. And this kind of springs out of that whole Second Amendment division of the Civil Rights Department in DOJ that Trump established about a month ago, a little over a month ago. I think it was it's like mid-November, if I remember correctly, or end of October, somewhere in there, that Harmeet Dillon, Assistant Attorney General, runs. And I will say this. I've been pretty critical of times of the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi specifically, and she deserves it, when she has a brief defending the National Firearms Act, and that brief is joined by Giffords and Everytown and a few other anti-gun groups. That tells you what side that she has fallen on, right? This is kind of the dichotomy of this particular administration, and what infuriates gun owners, or at least this gun owner specifically, so much is, my goodness, can you just make up your mind? And with that being said, there seems to be some kind of tug of war going on. And what we hope this is a course correction. This kind of lawsuit is monumental. And they just did this again on, I think it was Sunday or early this morning. Sometime in that time, they filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Virgin Islands over violations to the Second Amendment. So again, we're seeing this take of going after state, territories, and now district gun laws, or gun control laws, I should say. And in Harmeet Dillon's case, she actually argued on our behalf before, I think it was Judge Easterbrook over in the Seventh Circuit in the Illinois assault weapons case, the PICA lawsuit that's going on over there, saying that that law is unconstitutional. And this is what is interesting, too, that we have to separate those two things out. So first off, she did that argument before the Second Amendment Civil Rights Division was established. So that predates that. Secondly, when you look at the state of Illinois, that's state law. The District of Columbia is run by the federal government. It is a federal jurisdiction. Yes, it has a mayor and city council members, but ultimately they report to the DOJ, the federal government, because the District of Columbia is run by the federal government. So this is the federal government taking an official stance saying these are unconstitutional, period, dot. And we do see territories and we see states like Hawaii and California, Washington, Connecticut, New Jersey, California, Massachusetts. We know the collection that continually push these types of bans. We see them do this all the time. So this is the federal government officially making that stance. This has great potential to force the Supreme Court to take this up. And this is the part that if you ever watch Four Boxes Diner with Mark Smith, that he talks about a little bit, that the Inspector General is often considered the 10th justice on the Supreme Court. So this is the direct conduit from the executive branch to the Supreme Court. They can petition and try to force the Supreme Court to take up certain cases. So we've seen this with, say, like the voting cases out of Colorado, I believe, during the 2024 election, whether you could keep someone off the ballot. We've seen this a little bit with this administration when it comes to now the birthright citizenship question and a few others. We're not going to get into those. I'm also not a lawyer, so this isn't legal advice. This is just kind of observations here. I mean, we do study these things kind of extensively, but so this person has a lot of sway with the justices. If they ask, a lot of times it gets taken up. That's not to say every time. They are not a sitting Supreme Court justice. That's not what they are. They're an appointed individual. But this case could be forced before the Supreme Court. And we have seen the Supreme Court punt on these types of cases a lot lately. There's been quite a few assault weapons cases come up in the last couple of years. And even last year, we saw some that were denied, or this last term, I should say. And Justice Kavanaugh wrote that they're denied, but they expect to take them up. Again, kind of a chicken answer, in my humble opinion, which is be a man, take the cases up. Your job as a sitting Supreme Court justice, all of you, is to ensure the civil rights of individuals are not infringed upon by the government. Period. Dot. That's your job. Enforce the Constitution. If it's controversial, that's tough. That's why you have lifetime appointments, so you can take controversial cases and rule on them correctly, right? That is the purpose here. So with that being said, I actually anticipate this will probably end up before the Supreme Court somewhat quickly. And it could all be consolidated and packaged up, which may speak to the timing of this, because we saw the Supreme Court actually deny, or not, I shouldn't say deny, sir. They reconference hearings on some assault weapon cases. So, we get tired of things getting reconferenced and not giving opinions or saying they're going to take it up or not take it up. This happens all the time with the Supreme Court. And this is going to be my little 30-second rant. It drives me nuts that we currently have more sitting Supreme Court justices, 9, than we have ever had on the Supreme Court. And they are taking less and less cases than they ever have. It makes no sense to me. They should be having a heavy workload. If you don't like the heavy workload, tough, don't go on the Supreme Court. That is your job. With that being said, it will be interesting to see if this forces their hand. This could all be consolidated and taken up. They could literally take this and go like, hey, this is in the Washington, D.C. district. We technically are supreme law of the land, but also have special privileges here in Washington, D.C. We will take all this up right now and rule on it. It could happen. The Inspector General could also call for it to be taken up. So we do hope the Trump administration continues to push on this. And again, I'm going to give you just a quick theory as to why I think this is happening now. I think there's a couple reasons, actually. Let's not kid ourselves. The 2026 election is starting in January. I know that seems weird, but election seasons are whole year things now. That's just the way it is. And the Trump administration is trying to make gains in the House and in the Senate. It's going to be tough. It's an off-year election. The party in power always struggles with this, but they're eyeing that. So let's not kid ourselves. This is throwing meat out there for gun owners that they want to motivate on their behalf. That is true. They also realize that gun owners are upset with them with the way they've handled the Second Amendment specifically. Rightfully so. We should be upset with them. They have not done a good job. Just because they're the best Second Amendment DOJ and executive branch in my lifetime, they're that by default, not because they necessarily have knocked it out of the park. Yeah, I had given her a C minus. Now I gave her an F. This will bring her back up to maybe a C minus, C plus. We're nowhere near B's at this point or A's when it comes to grades on this administration. I do think the pressure campaign matters. National Association for Gun Rights has been pushing hard. GOA has been pushing hard. FPC, Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition. There's a slew of grassroots organizations out there. You should support all of them. They are fighting for your rights on our behalf. So I do want to put that out there that I do think the pressure campaign matters, and I do think it is working. Does that mean that it's over? No, it does not. That means that we need to keep pressing, because what we don't want to have happen as the 2026 election goes away, and let's just say the Republicans get what they want and they maintain their majorities, and then they forget about us for a year until the 2028 election, because we know both parties suck at this, where they maintain their promises. We want to make sure that when people say they're going to do something, we hold them accountable. And I say this not to get political. We need our rights restored. Period. I don't care what side of the aisle does it. Excuse me there. I don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican that restores our rights. I really don't. It doesn't mean anything to me. I have my personal opinions on which party represents me the best. That is true. But they also equally represent me poorly. Both things can be true. Thus is government, which is why we need to shrink it. Again, that's my rant about that. But when it comes to the Second Amendment, let's keep the pressure on, guys. Again, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you on the next video. We'll see when that is. That might be sooner than we all realize. We'll bring you some exciting stuff from SHOT Show coming up here soon. Have a Merry Christmas.